During my last prenatal examination, the doctor told me the fetus was not developing properly and had died in the womb. They said I needed an abortion as soon as possible. I calmly crumpled the report and insisted on being discharged. The attending physician grew anxious, repeating the dangers a retained stillborn can pose to a pregnant woman, and he called my husband, Samuel. He urged Samuel to force me into a hospital and proceed with the abortion. I wasn't in a hurry. I found a private confinement center and moved in, cutting off all external contact. In my previous life, the doctor had told me the baby had congenital malformations and died in utero. They insisted on an urgent abortion. Because my husband was an obstetrician-gynecologist, he and the attending physician performed a cesarean on me. After the surgery, I learned the baby had been developing normally. Samuel buried the body in the backyard of his first love to ward off evil. Due to an unqualified surgical procedure, a sponge had been left inside my uterus. The wound became infected. I died in the hospital. When my parents tried to demand justice, the attending physician and my husband labeled them troublemakers. They were publicly vilified until their company collapsed and they themselves were driven to death by online harassment. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the day of the prenatal exam. The report in my hand slipped to the floor. I still felt the afterpain of the cesarean infection and a sudden heaviness in my body. I realized I had been reborn to the last prenatal examination. My considerate husband picked up the report and supported me, his concern sincere. "Don't be sad, honey," he said. "This just means our child's fate with us hasn't arrived yet. We'll have another chance in the future. Your health is more important now." His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like a good man. If it weren't for the rebirth, I wouldn't have known that Samuel, the man I'd loved for 10 years, was cold and despicable. In my past life, the attending physician had said the baby was stillborn and that an emergency abortion was necessary. As an obstetrician, Samuel offered to perform the cesarean himself. After 8 years of marriage, I trusted him completely and trusted the doctor who'd monitored my pregnancy. They deliberately misdiagnosed me. My child had never even been shown the world. He was killed by his biological father. Samuel had left a piece of gauze inside me, which caused a devastating infection. Eventually my uterus had to be removed. When I questioned him, Samuel slandered me, blaming my promiscuous personal life. He fabricated chat logs and synthetic videos of me with other men and spread them online. Thousands pointed fingers. No one believed me. I was left alone in the hospital as my wound festered. Maggots grew. I became septic and died. My parents were attacked for defending me. The scandal bankrupted their company and they were destroyed by online harassment. I swore that in this life I would not repeat the same mistakes. I would make those who killed me pay. I took a deep breath and stifled a rush of hatred and panic. I picked up the prenatal report and, to avoid arousing Samuel's suspicion, kept my eyes red but steady. "Samuel," I said, voice shaking, "let me calm down for a little while. Can the surgery happen in a few days?" He stroked my hair with what looked like pity, holding me. "Okay. I know you're upset. I'll wait for you." "Thank you." I touched my already large belly. My hatred for Samuel deepened. I remembered my last life. When my child was born, I heard him cry. I wanted to see him, but Samuel stopped me. I couldn't move because of the anesthesia. I watched helplessly as they threw my baby onto the cold floor. He slowly stopped breathing. Later I found Samuel had hidden the prenatal report. The final result had shown the child was developing normally. I raged, desperate to find my baby. By the time my parents discovered him, all that remained were bones. Samuel had buried them in his first crush's courtyard. I secretly arranged for another obstetric exam at a different hospital and contacted a private detective to gather evidence of Samuel's affair. I also asked my assistant to prepare certain things for me. When I mentioned this to Jess, Samuel's colleague and the woman from his past, she was displeased and told me, "The child is already dead." I snapped back, "He is still a person. How can you be so selfish?" Jess replied cruelly, "He doesn't want you as his mother. Why insist on keeping him? Do you want to make him restless in the grave?" I answered coldly, "This is my business. I will take full responsibility for the consequences." Jess kept taunting me, saying I was unfit to be a mother. Samuel interrupted, "Jess, don't worry. I'll handle it as soon as possible." Jess, who supervised some of my checkups, fell silent. In my previous life I never connected these facts. Jess had been the kind, responsible doctor praised by other mothers, and Samuel had taken a year off to be with me, earning the hospital's reputation as a devoted husband. But now I saw them exchange secret glances and heard Jess's sarcastic tone. I realized Jess White was Samuel's first love. To collect proof of Samuel's betrayal, I hired a private detective at great cost. I knew that after today's final prenatal check it would be the end of my previous life. I would be hospitalized and prepared for an abortion. At midnight my child would be taken out and declared dead. Half a day passed. I had already secured a private confinement center and planned to move in early. Although Samuel had been with me, he seemed distracted, frowning and reading messages. I knew Jess would not stop until she got what she wanted. Perhaps there would be a confrontation between them. I smoothed his collar and, feigning gentleness, said, "Samuel, if something comes up at the hospital, go take care of it. You've been staying home with me too much. It's unfair to the patients. Don't worry, I'll wait for you." His face relaxed. He made me a bowl of vegetarian noodles, put it in front of me, dressed, and prepared to leave. "You haven't eaten properly for a day," he said. "Finish this, and I'll come back and clean up. Wait for me at home." I nodded, watched him go, then packed the noodles into a bag. I called the private detective and my company assistant. "I've already obtained the sample," I told them. "And I want all personal information on Jess White." Right then, the confinement center staff arrived to help me pack. The hospital I booked had sent doctors to the center, and they examined my unborn child. The heart rate was normal, the ultrasound showed no abnormalities, completely different from Samuel's report. The doctor looked grave. "We did find traces of medication in your blood," he said. "This medication could impair heart development in a fetus. Fortunately, the dose wasn't high, and it wasn't taken very long. The impact appears minimal." Fear flooded me. Samuel must have intended to harm me and our child. I immediately had people investigate Samuel's medication and purchase records. After I dismissed the doctor, I sat waiting for messages. When the evidence arrived I felt a little better. At noon Samuel called as expected. I let it ring and blocked him. Moments later Jess messaged, "Juliet, do you know how serious the consequences are if you don't remove a stillborn fetus? This is extremely irresponsible for you, your husband, and your family." I sneered. Was she upset because I had foiled her sacrifice? I turned off my phone and blocked all outside contact, settling into the confinement center. I had told my assistant to inform my parents that I wanted a divorce so they wouldn't intervene on Samuel's behalf. The assistant later said Samuel had gone to my parents' house and been turned away. Only then did I breathe easier. When I married Samuel, my parents had initially opposed it. I was the May family heiress, from a wealthy background, and my marriage to a gynecologist required them to support Samuel through study abroad so he would fit into our world. Without my parents' help, Samuel could never have entered our neighborhood. Over the last 8 years I constantly restrained and accommodated him. It made him forget who had given him everything. It made him forget that everything he had was because of me. After a night's sleep, I woke to over 100 missed calls. Samuel and Jess had bombarded me with messages. My assistant sent dozens of links with filthy headlines: May family daughter's promiscuous private life, extramarital affairs during pregnancy caused fetal death. Another trending story praised Samuel for suspending work to stay with his pregnant wife while she cheated on him. Samuel had made the scandal public, and Jess had helped. They presented fabricated prenatal evidence at the hospital and a falsified paternity report, and Samuel tearfully declared that if not for Dr. White's warning, he would have never known of my dirty behavior, accusing me of killing the fetus and fleeing. The comment section overflowed with sympathy for Samuel. The hospital staff corroborated his story. My reputation was destroyed. My personal contact information was exposed and my phone flooded with abuse. Even with the second chance I had in this life, Samuel seized every opportunity to smear me. I thought of my previous life, the surgical infection, the hysterectomy, Samuel's lack of remorse, the videos, the fabricated evidence, the way the world turned on me until no one would help as I lay dying with maggots in my wound. I had died in a lonely hospital bed. This time I smiled coldly at the repeating headlines. "Samuel," I thought, "I can't wait to see you and your lovers lose everything, the way you made me lose everything." I steadied myself. I would gather evidence. I would expose them. I would not let history repeat itself. My mom called to check on me. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. "Your dad and I are purchasing the information we need. You just rest and recover at the confinement center. Leave this to us." Hearing her concern left me uneasy. In my previous life, after Samuel murdered my baby and I died, he and Jess slandered me. My parents confronted him at the hospital, but with too little evidence in hand, Samuel countersued and, in front of reporters, accused them of blackmailing doctors and twisting the truth. When my parents argued their case, an angry crowd beat them to the ground. Their company went bankrupt days later. Under unbearable pressure, they died, one after the other. In this life, I refused to let them be dragged into the fire again. Holding the evidence I'd prepared, I told my mother not to interfere. I knew what I had to do. After hanging up, I called my assistant. We would face everything head-on with a press conference. She moved quickly and booked the largest venue. Reporters and onlookers flooded the hall. Supported by my assistant, I slipped in through the back and stepped onto the stage. A chorus of boos rose instantly. A bottle flew toward my head and struck me. I glared at the thrower, then signaled my bodyguards. They restrained the troublemaker and escorted him straight to the police station. The others who had been itching for chaos fell silent. I swept my gaze across the crowd. The room hushed, except for one voice from the corner. "Juliet, you're just relying on your family's money to throw your weight around," Samuel said, sounding wounded and indignant. "We've been married 8 years, and you've accused me of everything under the sun. Do you deny it?" I looked straight at him and let a cold smile curl my lips. "Samuel, you're a doctor. Why the desperate need to audition as an actor?" Heads turned. Murmurs rippled. He flinched. "Juliet, stop trying to defend yourself." I didn't waste words. High-definition photos and videos filled the screen behind me, footage from the night I was discharged. After Samuel dropped me home, he drove straight back out, booked a hotel room near the hospital with Jess, and spent the night. In the clip, he coaxed her, kissed her until her temper faded, and then they went in, hand in hand. Hours later they emerged, clothes disheveled, lingering in a reluctant embrace at the entrance. I enlarged the kiss. Their faces were unmistakable. Whispers swelled. I released their chat logs next, obscene, explicit, and followed by bank transfers and purchase records. For all Samuel's prestige as an obstetrics expert, his salary could never have covered Jess's luxury gifts. The evidence spoke. "No way. If that's real, Samuel is trash," someone muttered. "What a pair of scumbags," another said. Samuel's face went brick red as reporters encircled him. He jabbed a finger at me. "Why am I like this?" "Because you drove me to it. If you hadn't done so many hurtful things, I wouldn't have made a mistake. Since we married, you never wanted a child. You've been secretly taking pills. Did you think I didn't know?" I remembered the early years. I had wanted a child. Samuel refused. Children would hinder his future. I waited 8 years. A few voices in the crowd tried to revive the mob. "We're all human. Why should only Juliet get a free pass? Don't expect others to be moral if you're not. Isn't this moral blackmail?" Samuel pressed on, eyes swollen. "Jess and I loved each other in college. If not for your forced marriage, we would never have separated. This is your fault." Jess arrived then, still in her white coat. People recognized her immediately, the chief physician of obstetrics and gynecology. "Dr. White. I trust her," someone shouted. "She would never ruin a family for no reason. It must be Juliet's scheming." I lifted my hand and my assistant pushed new documents to the screen. "Dr. White, here are records from other hospitals," I announced. "Dismissed for major medical accidents. Bribery. Sex-selective services for families. Falsified diagnoses. Infant deaths from induced premature labor. Explain." Color drained from Jess's face. She glanced helplessly at Samuel. He faltered. We kept going. Jess targeted Samuel after he became department director at a top-tier hospital. They began their affair by our 3rd year of marriage. The hotel they frequented is owned by my parents. It wasn't hard to get the footage. In the past I had trusted him so blindly I'd never checked his phone. Looking back, the signs were everywhere: overnight shifts, days when he didn't come home, lipstick and perfume in his car, a stray earring. I had waved it all away. The screen filled with dismissal notices and receipts. Jess stared, wordless. Samuel sputtered. I smiled. "Samuel, you've thrived like a parasite, using my family's resources to build a future for your old flame. If that's true love, consider this my wedding gift." Questions died on the reporter's lips, but I wasn't finished. In my previous life, they destroyed my family. A few screenshots wouldn't settle that debt. Sensing he was losing, Samuel tried to hustle Jess out. I caught my assistant's eye. She moved to block the exit. "We're not done," I said. "The public has questions. Whose child am I carrying? Why did I suddenly disappear? Where are the videos and photos you claimed prove my private life? If you don't explain, how can I?" Jess snapped. She pointed at me, voice rising to a shriek. "You bitch. None of that is true. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't take bribes. You fabricated everything because you hate me for ruining your family." I watched her calmly. The calmer I stayed, the more unhinged she became. At last she lunged for the stage, eyes bloodshot, intent on tearing me apart. The bodyguard stopped her. Gone was the gentle doctor, in her place stood someone wild and dangerous. Samuel tried to restrain her, panic-stricken. The audience recoiled, confused by her sudden breakdown. I knew why. Ever since the family of a dead infant had threatened her, Jess had become brittle, paranoid, recently, full-blown hysterical. I had found psychiatric meds in Samuel's clothes, that was how I learned the truth. I nodded to the press row. You all have a copy of Dr. White's psychiatric records. She has been ill for a long time. What you're seeing is not a momentary lapse. Jess threw things, trying to smash the screens and shred the documents. She shoved Samuel aside and lunged for me. You should have listened. She screamed. You should have gotten rid of the child. Your child can cure my hysteria, there's no time. If the baby is born, I won't have a chance. Give me the child. So you admit you fabricated medical records to deceive me, I said, voice steady. You told everyone my baby was already dead. You told them I had some filthy disease that killed the fetus. You did all this because your sins were devouring you, and you wanted my child as a talisman to purge your evil? My rage finally found daylight. I spoke their crimes aloud. Jess threw back her head and laughed. Yes. I didn't ask you to divorce him. I only wanted to use your pregnancy to cure me. Otherwise, do you think you'd have gotten pregnant now? Ice flooded me from the soles of my feet upward. 8 years. 8 years of negative tests, of empty hope, because of him. For 8 years, Samuel had been secretly giving me contraceptives. The truth was even harder to accept than I'd imagined. I stood there, stunned, before signaling my assistant to call the police. There were criminal charges here, intent to harm, a pattern of medical misconduct. Jess would face the law. And Samuel as well. 8 years of secretly drugging me was a crime. The crowd could hardly believe it. This scumbag didn't even spare his own child, too vicious. And that Dr. White is a repeat offender. Not only did she use a borrowed knife to commit murder, she fabricated lies to smear the victim. They treated us all like fools. Samuel hadn't expected Jess to expose him. Cornered, he abandoned her in an instant. He slapped her hard, his face turning mottled red. Jess White, stop talking nonsense. He barked. Yes, I refused to have children for selfish career reasons, but I never gave my wife any medicine in secret. He turned to me, voice suddenly soft. Honey, I was wrong. I was bewitched by this despicable person. I shouldn't have believed in ghosts and gods, let alone thought of harming our child. Fortunately, nothing happened. Please, let me make it up to you. Will you forgive me? I'll do anything. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Really? He brightened, pulling out his phone as if to prove his sincerity. I'll have Jess White fired immediately. Jess flew at him, grabbing his collar. Samuel. You'd betray me for that woman? I'm the only one who knows what you've done. If you won't let me live, I won't let you live. Samuel shoved her away like she was burning his hands. She stumbled, fell hard, and a dark pool spread beneath her. I went cold and called my personal physician. After a quick exam, his face tightened. She's pregnant, he said quietly. The fall. The fetus likely won't survive. Jess curled on the floor, clutching her abdomen, her face a mask of pain. My child. My child is gone. Samuel's composure cracked. Jess, are you all right? Jess. He bent to lift her, then froze, eyes flicking to me. He knew that if he walked out with her now, I would never give him another chance. Everything he had, his position, his prospects, would be stripped away. He set her down and whispered, I'm sorry, Jess. It's my fault the baby's gone. Hate me if you must. But I can't lose what I've built. I've come too far. Please. Let me go. Jess looked at him as if seeing him clearly for the first time. You are truly selfish, she said. I never should have believed your promises. I never should have kept you. Her eyes went flat. Go keep our child company in death. Before anyone could stop her, she pulled a scalpel from her pocket and drove it into Samuel's carotid artery. Blood sprayed across her face. The scene dissolved into screams as the crowd recoiled. Samuel gaped, trying to speak, then turned his head toward me, eyes full of disbelief. I only looked back, expressionless. He died before the police arrived, cradled in the arms of the woman he'd chosen. Jess yanked the blade free and stared at me with a warped smile. Why do you get everything so easily, Juliet? Do you know why Samuel chose you? Your family background. If you hadn't appeared, Samuel and I would be happy now. You should never have competed with me. Sirens wailed. Officers rushed in and subdued her. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. Jess had committed murder in front of dozens of cameras. The law would take its course. I hadn't even had time to file for divorce. I instructed my assistant to notify Samuel's family and arranged for his body to be released. His mother arrived in fury, dripping gold and jade. "You monster. My son is dead because of you. Why wasn't it you? I'll sue you, you'll pay." "For what?" I asked evenly. "Your son's killer is the mistress you protected. And everything on you?" I let my gaze travel over her handbag, her necklace, the ring. "Those were bought with my money. You've been eating and wearing what's mine." She sputtered. I continued, "I'm here to inform you, not to negotiate. Your son is dead. By law, as his spouse, I inherit his assets, and any claim for his child, if there had been one. None of this belongs to you. Return what's mine." She screamed obscenities and clutched her jewelry. I nodded to security. They retrieved what could be retrieved. I left her stamping and wailing, powerless. When it was over, I returned home. The familiar furniture felt like artifacts from another life. When I first met Samuel, he'd been earnest, kind. He once paid a pregnant patient's bill out of his own pocket. That was the man I fell in love with. Even when people tried to come between us, he told me, "In this life I love only Juliet. If I ever change my heart and cheat, I deserve a miserable end." After we married, he treated me well and became more ambitious. And he cheated anyway. I stared at the photos and messages in my hands, grief settling like silt. 8 years of marriage, 5 years of betrayal. A month ago, when I was 6 months pregnant, Jess, his first love, was pregnant too. He no longer cared for me, he only wanted a child with her. But he didn't want to lose his ladder, either. So he schemed. He found a hypnotist to plant murderous nightmares in Jess's mind, convincing her that sacrificing a fetus would banish her ghosts. My baby became her cure. In that way, Jess wouldn't push for divorce. I would carry his heir under his roof, and when the time came, they would use their positions to make my child disappear. I would die of complications, and the world would think it was my fault. He would keep everything, while my family's name rotted. In this life, he failed. He couldn't kill my child. Jess's mind couldn't wait. Desperate, he tried to ruin me publicly, but I had already prepared the counterblow. He thought he'd hidden the evidence, I found it piece by piece. In the end, he kept the oath he'd made, he died without peace. I thought of the regret and fear on his face at the end and felt the weight of my past life hatred ease, if only a little. I packed Samuel's belongings into boxes. In the small one he kept under the bed, I found the first handmade ring I'd given him, our names engraved inside. I dropped it into the trash. I laid a hand on my belly. In this life, my child and I would finally live.